Most Australians have heard about the Eureka Rebellion, and some of our overseas friends and viewers may have heard about it also. In fact, the flag that was flown during that fracas was adopted by a building union to use in the 20th century. I'm Michael Beschel, Australian historical fiction writer, and we're here to talk about probably the most controversial and provocative rebellion that occurred during the early Victorian period, that's 9 years from 1851 to 1860. There are many fine references of the rebellion itself and the leading parties in it, including Peter Lalor. So I'll leave that to you to research at your leisure, and I highly recommend you do that. It's a great story. Today we are talking about Eureka within the context of the gold rush. Now, Eureka probably wouldn't have occurred as it had without the discovery of gold, especially in Victoria. There were no previous circumstances that could have been used to manage the mining of gold in a better way. It was a bit like the introduction of social media today and how fast that technology has grown, that by its technological growth, it's outpaced any legal or governance issues or measures to control some of its more controversial aspects. Technologies move on and the law tries to chase it. No, gold was discovered everywhere, everyone went crazy to get it as soon as possible, and the law had to hurriedly catch up and try and manage it. It did in one way, by the imposition of the tax, the licence tax, the dreaded licence tax in Victoria. But the management and the collecting of that tax proved a tinderbox in the new state of Victoria. As we said before, the New South Wales diggers largely accepted paying a licence to mine gold, albeit begrudgingly. In Victoria, according to the Argus newspaper in May 1853, Mr Mackay, the head of the police who went out at night after a glass too much and annoyed and insulted the diggers, poking bayonets into closed tents. Sergeant Worsley, who angered hundreds of diggers, waiting for their licences, while he improperly obtained licences from those who had bribed him. This form of corruption stirred the diggers in Victoria to act. On 3rd of July 1853, 2,500 diggers gathered to hear Dr Jones, an advocate for popular rights, state his reasons in Victoria against the tax. He said it was excessive and required armed police to collect it. It was contrary to the British law. And 1,000 of the diggers charged down the hill against the constables and a fight ensued. This was the start and the genus of the lighting the slow match to the larger rebellion in October 1854. Eureka is often remembered as a fight of the gold diggers against the licence tax. It was that for sure, but it was much more as well. It was a demonstration of collective action for the first time in the Australian colonies, eclipsing the minor convict rebellion at Vinegar Hill, in Castle Hill, roughly now, New South Wales, in the primitive period. Now this Eureka Rebellion was a more major event, and it was a representation not so much of a convict fighting his master, but of a group of hard-working, free and now recognised Australian diggers fighting for what they believed to be a democratic right to mine and to pay a licence tax that was fair, but it was also equitable. It was the first demonstration of collective action, and it was the first time that a flag was the cornerstaff of the rebellion, a flag with the Southern Cross imprinted on it. It was said by some to be the start of the kernel of an idea of collective action on behalf of a group of people coming together to get what they want. Even in the mother country in England, such ideas were still in their infancy, but it did represent the start of what was to become the cornerstone of the later industrial movement in the Western world in the 20th century. Good stuff. So that gives us a glimpse of how the rebellion in Victoria sat within the context of the gold rush, within an interesting part of the early Victorian period. It's Michael Beashall signing off for now. Thank you for watching.